Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shepherd's Corner, your favorite show. And whenever we have Shepherd's Corner, you know we have Archbishop J with us. Welcome, Archbishop Jason Gordon.
How are you doing, sir? All is well?
All is well. I mean, you know, I'm trying to get, you know, accustomed to this new kind of name, Charles Jason Gordon. Are you all with Archbishop J or Charles Jason Gordon? Let me know.
Archbishop J. Let me keep the things simple and nice.
All right. Archbishop J. Well, living a good life, caring for our common home. I mean, I mean, you all bishops, you know, met, you know, this is the week of Laudato Si, and your topic this week is living a good life, caring for our common home. And why the archbishops? Why is the priority on the environment? That's the question.
Well, this week is Laudato Si week. It's the 5th anniversary of this incredible document that the Holy Father wrote. And so we're marking the week by having reflections on Laudato Si and by having people think again, commit again to this incredible thing. So, for instance, what I did for Laudato Si week is I have a little grow box I do in my house.
Yeah.
You know, and today I planted, not today, on Monday I planted some okra and some bhaji and some other corn and this and that in my grow box, so that, you know, as a marker of Laudato Si, we are doing home gardens and promoting home gardens as one of the things that we will do as church, so that we're connecting back with the environment, connecting back with our common home, connecting back with the core of who we are and where we've come from.
Now, that's amazing, because, you know, all the media have also been promoting that. You know, growing, you know, having your own kitchen garden, reducing, you know, the dependency on importation of food and nutritious food, which we could get right here and you could grow right.
Correct. So that's what we're doing. And in doing that, we are also connecting back with the fact that this earth is common home, and that this common home we have is only one of them we have. We don't have two, there's only one. And in having one, we have to treat it really well, because we have to hand it on to the next generation.
You say we're in the midst of a pandemic that has raised our consciousness of our environment in significant ways. And every person on the planet now knows that lifestyle is not the highest good. You tell that to the capitalists.
Well, you see, up until the 12th of March 2020, lifestyle reigned supreme. You couldn't tell a young person not to be lining on Arapita Avenue or Grand Bazaar or the mall in South or wherever it is they have. You couldn't say that stay home, go back to your home and stay home. You couldn't listen. More than you know. If you try that, you would have been in serious trouble. You try it with your children and see where that would have got you. A pandemic comes, and all of a sudden, things we've been talking about for the longest while, all of a sudden now, we are willing to live, willing to change, and willing to absorb new values, new habits, new cultures, because the pandemic, the little microbe, don't forget that little boy, the little microbe has put our lives in jeopardy, and therefore we have come to reassess what's really important. And the alignment on the Friday evening is no longer what is really important. And the staying at home has become really important, which means that plenty people who would have been spending serious money on a weekly basis on lifestyle have shifted now and have spent much more time at home with their family and with the people that are around them. And that's a significant shift.
Well, I mean, not only that, I thought you were going to talk about young people and their brands. You know what I mean? They all the famous brands that, I mean, you know where to go and wear your brands too. You know?
Yes, you could put on a brands and go to the bathroom, put on another one and go to the living room. I mean, you have places to go. You could put on another one and go in the garden.
Well, here it is. Brands have no longer become the supreme thing, which, you talked about the unfettered freedom, the immoral consumption, and unbridled markets.
Mm. You see, what the microbe has done is has forced us to reconsider what we believed was sacred. And there were things that we believed were sacrosanct, that nobody could touch it. And when a culture puts lifestyle or anything before God, human dignity, and the common good, we have a serious problem. And what the microbe and the challenge of COVID-19 has done, it has recalibrated the value system so that we now have to ask a whole new range of questions about what's really sacrosanct. Because what's really holy is God and the things of God and the ways of God. And next to that, joined at the hip, is the human dignity of every person. That we must put every person as a person of incredible dignity who deserves to have our care and attention. And that's why the whole unfettered freedom thing that we've been living for the last, 40 years in Trinidad, where people don't want freedom. What they want is unfettered freedom. Call it license. And so freedom always ends in a certain place. My freedom to extend my hand ends wherever your face begins. Because if I use my freedom to extend my hand pass through or into your face, that's not freedom. That is license. And so freedom always has an end. It always has a boundary. It always has a containment. What we have been living in the last couple of years has been an attempt at freedom with no license, no boundaries, and no containment. And that's very, very destructive. So whether you're talking carnival, you're talking how we spend our money, you're talking lifestyle choices, whatever we're talking about, it's really, this notion. For instance, young people who are working, okay? And their money is for their lifestyle. Their parents' money is to support them and run the house. There's something fundamentally wrong about what parents have done to their children. Yeah. It's fundamentally wrong.
No.
Because that is unfettered freedom. And that's what we as a generation have given to them. So the parents are struggling to get 2 cents to hold together to keep the house going. And they could blow on a weekend money that the parents could never dream of spending in that way. Something is not right with that.
I hearing you, but I want to take 2 steps back to the businessman.
You want to change this topic. I find like your nose getting a little red.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's supposed to touch my face. Hold on. But I want to look on the businessman side of the story. What you're telling me is I have to dial back a little bit. I mean, I sell in clothes, I sell in my brands, I sell in my sneakers, my nice clothes, my nice car. I sell in on the avenue or wherever it is throughout Trinidad and Tobago. I sell it a nice time in the night for you to lime, drink a little alcohol, meet some nice people, dress nice. You telling me to step back now?
What I'm saying is that when your lifestyle is impacting on the ecosystem, that you have to step back. You have to step back. And when I say the ecosystem, I'm talking about the human ecosystem I'm talking about the natural ecosystem. I'm talking about the cultural ecosystem. You have to step back. Why? Because when we were living in the time that we were living pre-COVID, they had plenty disposable income for some people. Other people barely could make ends meet. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. Then, for the sake of lifestyle, we were doing things with our disposal of, say, plastics. That was creating serious problems for the fish, for wildlife, for the oceans, for the rivers, for all our waterways. That's a serious problem. We have communities in Central that are basically tin shacks made out of galvanized and board, where people are living without electricity or water and barely surviving, and not one or two areas of that. That's a serious problem. We have to understand the interconnection of this world that we are in. And we have to understand that in this interconnection, that what you do and what I do and what happens in the environment and what happens in the marketplace, these are all interconnected. We call this integral ecology. And so in this interconnected web in which we're living, we have to be able to care for each other, and we have to be able to deal with each other in a more equitable way.
The pandemic is not in somebody else's country and not later down the road. It is now time and geography pressed down upon us. You know, I like that. I like that line. The pandemic is not in someone else's country, and later down the road, now time and geography pressed down upon us, and we have tolerated for decades various threats to this planet that Pope Francis calls our common home, and we've taken little action. Check the rivers whenever we have rain.
You know, you see fridge, stove, doors, cupboards coming down the rivers. Then they block the rivers. Then you start now having flood, and everybody wants to quarrel about the flood. Well, it's because we've not cleaned the rivers. Yeah. We've not cleared the waterways, and we've dumped so much stuff in the waterways. I remember going kayaking one day after heavy rain. Well, you have to see the amount of plastic floating in the Gulf of Bahrain. It was sickening. I mean, plastic upon plastic, an ocean of plastic was floating out there. Where does that come from? It came from us. It came from us. We are the ones who have done this thing with the plastic and created this problem that really and truly has been a problem for this common home we call in the earth. And we're not understanding that that is not something that we can deal with like that. And that's why I'm proposing that for the health of the nation, we have to be willing to curtail our freedom, to limit our nightlife, to limit the things that we're doing, to limit business. And the thinking that allows such drastic action is unprecedented. But what the microbe has done is force us to understand things that we thought could not be given up can actually be given up. And once we've understood that, now we have to ask, when we open back the society, what do we actually want to take up? Do we want to take up the lifestyle we had before? Or do we want now to take up a new lifestyle and a new way of being that is much more ecologically friendly and that has a better rhythm and is more respectful both of the common home and of human beings? What do we want to do? What do we want to take up? That's the question.
You know, I want to add to you kayaking outside there after a rainstorm. I mean, 1 week ago, we had to get the fire brigade to come and, you know, literally save all our hillside where we have our tanks of water, because we have tanks that come by, we have tanks up on the hill, and therefore we have what is called like a gravity feed. And And there's a certain person, which is a neighbor, that wanted to plant some land. So he decided to catch a little fire to burn out a little patch, and the whole mountain caught a fire and came across by me. And that is also another part of destroying the
Yes.
ecological system
You
for
slash and burn.
flash and
When
burn.
you burn the hill, you kill the nitrates, you make the soil unproductive. Now you want to go and bring all kind of chemicals to bring the soil to what it was if you hadn't touched it in the first place.
Yeah.
Take a little swipe and clear the land.
No, you see, we want easy thing. We don't want to work hard. So therefore,
That's
the
it.
easiest thing to do is burn down the hillside. You'll get your space of land to plant.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the meantime, you know, you have all the birds, and I have a goatee, I have deer in my backyard, I have iguana in my backyard, and therefore all of them must have been, you know, panicking, running in every direction to get away. And half my hillside is burned down. You know, I shouldn't say
Well,
that I should not say that on television, you know. Anytime people hear that I have a goatee and deer and iguana in my backyard,
they come in for you.
they come in for me, and I'm a vegetarian.
That's the only reason that they're still in your backyard.
That's right.
Because if it wasn't a veggie, you know, I'm in pot already. Awesome.
But
in pot already.
We back to this ecological disaster we're facing, you know?
And that's why, you know, the pandemic has really called us to account and called us to think, to reflect, and to actually wake up to hard decisions that we have to make. And that's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. And this sobriety is really calling us to reflect on what we have been doing. One of the great cartoons I saw during this whole pandemic is Mother Earth, and I said it before in Shepherd's Corner, is Mother Earth as a big round ball with a little lip and a little finger, big, and a little human being in front of a little house, and the finger pointing, and the caption is, go back into your house and stay there and consider what you have been doing. Now that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful because Mother Earth is schooling us. Yeah. We are tampering with a delicate ecosystem by infringing in natural habitats where they have been wildlife with pathogens that have been existing on their own without troubling anybody. But when we now interfere and we move into their space, or we bring them into our space, then we have the what we have now with COVID-19.
Now, this week, May the 16th to the 24th, right? The Holy Father, you know, on care for our common home, Laudato Si, you know, in your article, you said it is intended to emphasize the urgent need for all to work together in solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, together, to work. We all have to work together for a more just, sustainable future.
For this common home we call Earth. Why? Because we can't do it alone. We just can't do it alone. This is not a one-man band. This is not a Lone Ranger band. This is not Tonto or Lone Ranger. This is, if we don't pull together and start working for the good of our common home, then we're going to lose it. And we have generations that are coming. And we are supposed to hand the earth over to the next generation in a better way than how we found it. You know, every parent wants to give their child a start in life that's better than the start they themselves had. So if you didn't have a university, you want to see how you could give that to your child. If you didn't have a secondary education, you want to make sure your child gets that. You want to make sure your child has a start that's better than the start that you had and better than the finish that you had sometimes. And to do that, everybody's willing to make a sacrifice. Now, we should also be ensuring that we hand the earth on to the next generation in a way that is better than how we received it. And to do that, we have to make a sacrifice. Because it's only sacrifice that will help us to preserve this common home we call the earth.
You know, like, I love that argument because it is real. We always hear parents saying, well, I don't want my child to go through the kind of craziness or hardships that I went through. But this is the first time I am hearing, well, hear this, how about us ensuring that we pass on to the next generation a better common home than we have been living in?
So the image is this, you know, every family have a family home.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't afford, you buy a house. And not only you buy a house, you maintain it, you keep it. Well, imagine you buy a house and over the years, you deplete the house. You take out a light socket to give to a neighbor. You let water run on the foundation. You let a leak spring in the galvanized and make the timber up on top like paper. You just allow it to go to rack and ruin because you too busy liming with the boys and too busy drinking on a weekend. So you have no money because you're liming and drinking, and so your whole home has gone to rack and ruin for the sake of your lifestyle. That's the image I'm putting forward.
Okay.
That's the image. Your house. And so what you hand on to your children is a house that is in a worse condition than what you receive from your parents. So your parent handed you the house in pristine condition, but you hand on to your children a house that is totally run down and dilapidated because you wanted to eat the goose that was laying the golden egg.
I like you went into the encyclical Pope Francis writes. He says in 1971, Blessed Pope Paul VI referred to the ecological concern as a tragic consequence of unchecked human activity.
Hold there for me a second, okay? Just hold there. Because I know you have a caller who called you with a question about me and Pope Francis being socialists. Correct?
Yes. Correct? Yeah. I got a WhatsApp. The WhatsApp came like that.
What's the question?
Well, you say, Archbishop, in your recent writings, you sound like a socialist. Isn't that why we found ourselves in this situation? We've been given so much, we've become unproductive.
Now, there are three big errors the person has made in their question. The first error is that the Christian gospel is not tied either to capitalism or to socialism. In fact, one of the popes said, a curse on both your houses. Because collectivism carries you to, and they're right in that, to a state of being unproductive and being so laissez-faire that nothing gets done and nothing gets achieved. But capitalism carries you to a state of competitiveness where it becomes to, and this is a direct quote from a Trinidadian politician, dog eat dog and vice versa. He said that. I don't know how did that vice versa come and dog eat dog, but the politician said that. That's true. And when you go to the side of the competition, and you have unbridled competition, what you're doing to humanity is you're creating tears in humanity where it is not that everybody has the basics that they need for human flourishing. It is that some people have opulence beyond belief and other people cannot even have a decent livelihood. Now, either one in its extreme is wrong and is a violation of what is truly human. But if you look at the gospel message is not capitalistic. We try to interpret it that way, but it is not. And the gospel message is not socialism. Some people try to interpret it that way, but it is not. It's a very tight road, because what people don't want to hear is that the human person is more important than the economy. I'll say it again, the human person is more important than the economy. And for the capitalists, the economy is more important than the human person. And that is a complete inversion of values. And that's why we got to the place where we are, where we're using human beings as disposable waste and letting the human beings become a means of making money, not an end in themselves, as a divine spark and somebody who holds divine life in them, and someone who has been created in the image and likeness of God. So now let's continue reading, because they blame Pope Francis and me, but I want you to see Pope Paul VI had to jump in the brew, and Pope John Paul too. So keep going.
He said, Pope Paul VI referred to the ecological concern as a tragic consequence of unchecked human activity due to an ill-considered exploitation of nature, humanity, and it runs the risk of destroying it and becoming in turn a victim of this degradation, and the urgent need for a radical change in the conduct of humanity. Inasmuch as the most extraordinary scientific advances, the most amazing technical abilities, the most astonishing economic growth, unless they are accompanied by authentic social and moral progress, will definitely turn against man. Oh my God. Who said that again?
Pope Paul VI. This is not Francis, and this is not Jason Gordon. Okay?
Yeah, but that was so far ago. That's before John Paul II.
Well, you don't want to hear John Paul. When John Paul, in his document on a century of Catholic social teaching, does a critique of unfettered capitalism, you don't want to hear John Paul. But he was scathing in his critique of unfettered capitalism and why it was bringing destruction to humanity as we know it. This is not because the popes or myself are socialists or anti-capitalists. We are humanists because we are making sure that the good of the human being has to take precedent over everything else. The same way that everybody knows that we have to close business for the sake of the good of the society, nobody here quarreling. The same that we know that is the same way that we have to know now that there are certain liberties that we must sacrifice for the sake of this common home we call Earth, and handing her to the next generation in a manner that is better than how we received her when we came into this world.
I want to refer to Laudato Si. As Laudato Si itself shows the reality of climate change and its impact on the integral ecology has been part of Catholic thinking long before Pope Francis, he adds his unique voice, however, calling humanity to repentance. He's calling us to repent.
And repentance is changing the direction of your life. Is recognizing you're heading in the wrong direction in the first place. Go back into your house and lock your door and reflect on what you have been doing.
Well, we're in the upper room. We are in the upper room, hopefully reflecting. By the way, I just want to say something. Quick. Meditations in the upper room. I have the books. Give me a call. No, I'm collecting the books. I'm going to make myself correct. I'm collecting the books tomorrow. I know many people call for meditations in the upper room. Just give me a call. 361-0300. I will get it to you. Delivery. So
even if I'm in Matlot.
Oh God. Even if you're in Matlot, I'll get it to you. But now you jump to John Paul II. Drawing upon the writings of St. John Paul II now I can't remember what the hell this is, but it says the destruction of the human environment he says, centesimus annus.
Sententius annus. That's the 100th anniversary of all the social encyclicals.
Right.
Says the destruction of the human environment is extremely serious. Not only because God has entrusted the world to us, men and women, but because human life is in itself a gift which must be defended from various forms of debasement. So I don't know where you want to go, you know. You're blaming me, eh?
Hey,
You're blaming me.
Hold on.
Me and Pope Francis. You know, I happy, you know, because I would consider in some real good company there.
We invited people to send a WhatsApp. And by the way, we are continuing to invite you all. Remember, pick up your Catholic news. You can get it at groceries. You can get it in the pharmacy. You could get it delivered to you, and you could get the electronic version. And His Grace is inviting you.
If they get it delivered to them, it will be delivered on a Thursday, so they could have it in time for Shepherd's Corner.
Right. So you're getting it. So
at your home. And
you could send me your WhatsApp. Send me your WhatsApp on what questions you would like His Grace to explain based, and I want to say this based on the article, because we've gotten a couple of questions, WhatsApp
that were way out of the article.
Right. We will deal with that. He will deal with that when we reach that part of Shepherd's Corner. So the destruction of the human environment by St. John Paul II, he says the destruction of the human environment is extremely serious, not only because God has entrusted the world to us, men and women, but because human life is itself a gift which must be defended from various forms of debasement.
You see this notion, the logic of the gift? That's one of the key thinkings of Pope John Paul II. And it's a brilliant thinking. And I want you to consider this. Is there anything that you have that you could rightly say is yours, you can lay claim to it, and no one else can do so?
No. Because you asked me this question already.
I know. And your body is a gift from your parents and God. Your glasses is a gift of technology that you did not invent. Your clothes is a gift of technology that you didn't sew, you didn't reap, you didn't loom, and you didn't invent the technology to make the clothes you have. Everything we have is a gift, either from the common workbench of humanity that is accumulated over time to the levels of technology we have today, or by somebody who gave it to your education was a gift from somebody else. And this notion of the logic of the gift is central to John Paul. And what he's saying is human life is a gift. And if human life is a gift, it must be defended. It's not yours and it's not mine. I didn't give it, I can't take it. But what I must do is I must defend it because of the dignity inherent in the giver who gave us this incredible gift of human life. That's why every human being must be treated with dignity, and every human being must be seen as a right, as a gift, as an expression of the image and likeness of our God.
I wish Wale could have called in, you know. But send your WhatsApps, okay? Send your WhatsApps to Archbishop J. And he says, every effort to protect and improve our world entails profound changes in lifestyles, models of production and consumption, and the established structures of power which today govern societies.
Now, this is John Paul. Eh? This is not Francis. This is not Jason Gordon. This is all your boy. Eh?
This big. This is big. Big.
This is all your boy. JP2 himself. Eh?
We Pope.
Saint JP2. But I wanted to hear what the saint is saying. Every effort to protect and improve our world requires profound change in lifestyle. Every effort. We cannot protect our world if we're not willing to have a profound change in lifestyle. We learned that in COVID-19. We could not protect our nation if we were not willing to do profound changes in lifestyle. We just couldn't do it. To protect the nation, we had to have a significant change of lifestyle. We all subscribe to it. Some kicking and screaming, some happy and docile. But we had to subscribe to a drastic change of lifestyle if we are going to protect Trinidad and Tobago. But it's the same thing for the common home. Because the threat doesn't seem as immediate, doesn't mean that this is not immediate. It is ever present. We are heading again into hurricane season. Again, last year was the 19th hottest year on record in a series of years where the last 19 years were the hottest year and every year got hotter than the one before. And there's some people who are saying, well, that has nothing to do with human beings. Well, no, it has everything to do with a long cycle of the earth, but it has everything to do with us and our gas and our emissions that are heating up the earth at an exponential rate. And that heating up of the earth is in the service of my lifestyle and your lifestyle.
And today we heard that a couple things. One, there is an extremely powerful cyclone headed towards Bangladesh and wow. and part of India, and you know that is extremely destructive and the potential to kill a lot of lives. So we heard that in the news, so we pray for those people. And right. Two, there was a BBC report talking about the bushfires in Australia, which came just before this pandemic. And they talked about how much destruction it had on Australia and its yep. wildlife. It was, correct. And every effort to protect and improve our world, I've quoted John Paul II, entails profound changes in lifestyle.
Models of production and consumption, and the established structures of power which today govern societies. The lobbies for its interests, but its interests are not always in keeping with the care of our common home, not always in keeping with the care of our families, not always in keeping with the dignity of human beings.
So let's go back to St. Papa Francis. Reflecting on his patron, St. Francis, he adds, I believe that St. Francis is the example par excellence of care for the vulnerable and of the integral ecology lived out joyfully and authentically. And he was particularly concerned for God's creation and for the poor and the outcasts. St. Francis, Papa mm-hmm. Francis just saying, hey, St. Francis.
Yes. So St. Francis was the one who, brother, sun, and sister moon. I hear you call him. There you call my tune. St. Francis understood this integral ecology, that we are integrally connected with everything, and everything is integrally connected with us. And if we understand that as the core of who we are, then we have to understand that integral connection is really and truly the reality of our living. And therefore, me trying to do me, regardless of you, don't make no sense, because if I am living a nice lifestyle and you have nothing, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
Now, he was a mystic. He was a pilgrim who lived in simplicity and in wonderful harmony with God, with others, with nature, and with himself. And Pope Francis says he shows us just how inseparable the bond is between concern for nature, justice for the poor, commitment to society, and wow, interior peace.
Interior peace. Because people want to have interior peace. This whole movement now of inner harmony, of this whole thing. But you can't have inner peace if you're not living right. And so the whole movement of meditation, this is divorce from religion, divorce from ethics, divorce from societal care, divorce because it's an attempt at privatizing a practice that actually is supposed to connect us back out to the whole cosmos. When you do meditation rightly, it connects you back to the whole cosmos. And it helps you to understand how integrally you are connected with the cosmos. But when you're doing meditation as a way of just getting some inner calm to go and slaughter another 150 people, do make sense? So a serial murderer who is practicing inner calm to go and kill more people, that's a total misuse of a religious practice. What the practice is about is really connecting us to an ethical core, to a religious value system, to a God who has created everything, and to the fact that we are connected to everything in creation because we are connected to God. It's very different.
And I want to add that to the CEO who practices meditation and doesn't care about the environment or the people that he manages is making more profit. Or something. Yeah. All right.
You sounding like that criticism. They threw at me, you like that brush going to paint you just now. Just now you're going to get it. But it's interesting how Pope Francis sees in St. Francis this connection between inner peace on the one hand, but commitment to society and justice for the poor and concern for nature. That you cannot divorce these things.
Papa Francis, he says, in this time of COVID-19, he is calling us to an even more urgent response. What we've been prepared to do for the health of individuals and the nation, we now need to do for the sake of the planet and the most vulnerable who experience the devastating effects of climate change. So that's Papa Francis there, talking about,
And we are the second most vulnerable part of the globe.
Yeah.
We're in the Caribbean, the Pacific Islands, and then us. And we're the number two. And each year we have had devastating effects of hurricanes for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Remember Maria?
Yeah.
And the one that came right after Maria?
Yeah.
And then the next year, Dorian was the last year. I mean, it's been crazy. The terrible impact of the earth and her cycle upon us in the Caribbean. So we have had the least impact on the carbon footprint, but we are having the most impact on the destruction of the environmental changes on us as a people.
And in a column on climate change, disease, and the vulnerability of the ecosystem in Washington Post, May 7, 2020, that's just last week, Fareed Zakaria reflects on the sudden death of the cygus, a small antelope. 2/3 of the population died within a few weeks. Some kind of bacterium called Pastorella, multocida, which had long lived in the animal without doing harm, suddenly turned virulent. Why? The Atlantic's Ed Young explains that the Central Asian region in which the saiga lives was becoming more tropical, and in 2015 was a particularly warm, humid year. And when the temperature gets really hot and the air gets really wet, the animal dies, the tigers die. Climate is the trigger, pastorella is the bullet. So it's just like the koalas down in Australia.
And this is an important example, because the tigers were living happily for a long, long time. Long, long time they've been living very, very happily in their environment. We have changed the environment, and 2/3 of them died. Now, the question is, what is living in us human beings and has been doing so happily in the environment we used to have that may not do so happily when the environment changes? That's the question. And that's what COVID-19 is about. We change the environment. And in changing the environment, either by encroaching on areas where bats live, or by bringing bats into human spaces, or by whatever it is we did, this microbe moves into humans and goes throughout the world. When we change the environment, there are consequences for it, and we have to deal with that. And the point of this is that the heat was what made the pastorella the bullet, because as just a change in humidity and temperature turned something that was benign in the animal for however long into a lethal weapon inside of the animal. We don't know what we do when we mess with the planet.
You know, if we have learned nothing else from COVID-19 experience, the COVID-19 experience, you say, let us understand that we are part of a very delicate ecosystem and have a moral responsibility to take care of our common home. We also have a responsibility to take care of the most vulnerable, who are usually the most affected by climate change. And you went straight into the Amazonian Synod. The Amazonian Synod, right, from October the 6th to the 27th, 2019, and that's last year, a special synod for the Pan-Amazonian region took place in Rome. And 4 of our bishops attended the 3-week event, and all were struck by the depth and humility of the Holy Father as he participated in the synod, which was an exercise in discernment. And Bishop Carell, one of our participants, believes that only through a radical change in lifestyle will the ongoing destruction of the Amazon forest end. And he says the good life for the indigenous peoples is mainly characterized by living in harmony with oneself, neighbor, nature, and God.
Yes. So the Amazonian Synod is a very important event. It's the first time we've had an event around an area that had many nations coming into it. And so what is considered Amazonia is everything that touches the Amazonian basin. And so Guyana, Suriname are part of it. French Guyana is part of it. And so those 3 dioceses participated, and the president of the AEC bishops, Bishop Gabriel, also participated in the synod. And that event is such a powerful event. What we got in the West was a lot of foolishness about married priests, as if that was what they were talking about. Right. That was just a small piece of the conversation. Now that we have not had Eucharist for 2 months, or 3 months, and people are feeling the itch and wanting to have Eucharist, now we're understanding what they were talking about in the Amazonian Synod when they said they have communities in the Amazon who only see a priest once per year and sometimes twice per year. And they are deprived of the Eucharist because of the law that we have of celibacy on priesthood in the West. That was what that conversation was about. I'm not getting into the conversation. I just think that's what it was about. But now we understand a little bit better because we have now been deprived, and we understand how we would do anything now to start back Eucharist and to get back ourselves into this place where we are back having masses again. So the Synod talked about the integral ecology. It talked about the fact that hectares and hectares of land are being turned into, are being stripped of forest every single day, and just for commercial gains. And the Amazon has 20% of the oxygen of the planet. It's really the lungs. It's the largest area that allows the planet to breathe. You destroy that, the whole ecological connectivity is going to be thrown out of whack. And so we have some serious challenges that we're dealing with. And that's why he's saying that you have to do all of these things to be able to get yourself to where we need to get to as a world.
The good life in the rich countries is mainly seen as living in comfort and luxury, a lifestyle where there are no limits to economic growth. And economic growth is at the expense of nature and the poor. And he goes on, their way of life poses a serious threat
to the climate. Before you go on, you have to see that he's linking back with exactly what St. Francis said.
Yes, yeah.
You have the earth, the poor, and lifestyle have to be in a delicate balance. Go ahead.
He says that their way of life poses a serious threat to the climate. Conversion is, therefore, a key to leaving the path of self-destruction and growing towards a life in accordance with the values of the kingdom of God. Wow. And listening to the call of the earth and the poor of the Amazon. And the bishops conclude that there must be complete conversion, a new lifestyle of sobriety, and joy must be developed. Wow.
I suppose your caller might want to call that socialism.
Well, here it is. I have another WhatsApp. The WhatsApp says, you tell me reflect on my lifestyle and its impact. But I've worked so hard to get me to this place. I am struggling with having to take now 2 steps back.
There's a wonderful story about that somebody told me some years ago. They said, I really was fighting and I found that I made 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward. And then I realized that I was heading in the wrong direction. So it was progress against my better judgment in the first place. And in fact, if I wasn't struggling so hard, I'd have made my 3 steps and I'd have had plenty more progress to my name. So what is progress is the question to your caller.
Yeah.
What is progress? Is it money in your pocket? Or is it harmony of our earth? What's progress? We have to have an integral view where we hold all of these things together.
Yeah, which was exactly what we were saying. That was what St. Francis basically espoused, holding all those areas together.
It's the integral ecology that we're talking.
The way of life, their way of life, poses a serious threat to the climate. Conversion, therefore, is a key. Yeah.
To leaving the path of self-destruction and growing towards a life in accordance with the values of the kingdom of God. So what's most important? That I get what I want, when I want it, how I want it, served up as I would like it, or that we hand this earth, our common home, onto a next generation in a better condition than we ourselves received it when we came into the world. What's the highest value here? And this is what this whole Laudato Si week is about. What's the highest value? The same way we understood that we would put all of our progress, lifestyle, economic activities, and social activities aside for the sake of saving society, is the same logic that we have to use for the sake of saving the planet and preserving our common home.
Well, we reached the key message. What is your key message?
There is an inseparable bond between the concern for nature, justice for the poor, commitment to society, and the interior peace. And any one of those that are broken, all are broken.
You see, all are broken, eh?
All are broken. We can't have justice for the poor if we're not having commitment to society. We can't have commitment to society without justice for the poor. We can't have a concern for nature without the others. All of them are integrally connected. You tamper one, you tamper all.
So what's your action step for the faithful?
Reflect on the impact of your lifestyle choice on the integral ecological system. And begin a food garden in your home. Participate in Laudato Si Week. And there's a website there for you to go, laudatosiweek.org, that you can go and look for on the web. But participate in it.
What's your scripture reading for all of us?
Genesis. Beautiful garden that we were in. But before we end, I want to tell you they're going back into the Vatican, into St. Peter's. But if you want to know that, and if you want to catch up with me before next week to know what it is we're talking about next week, to send your WhatsApp in, you have to be able to do what? Get your Catholic news. Get it. And you could order it to be delivered on a Thursday home by you. That's how I have mine now. Mine came, ready ordered, delivered home this afternoon.
Now, before you give us the prayer to close Conversations with Archbishop G, I have one more WhatsApp. He says, Pope Francis tries to assert the market tends to promote extreme consumerism. And this, I said, this is one of the big problems. He said, Pope Francis tries to assert that the market tends to promote extreme consumerism. You want to bowl this ball and let me go out of Dodge?
It's not that Pope Francis asserts that. It is so. It is so. We are living in an age where if you don't buy something every day, you feel like if you're not really a human being. And 3/4 what you're buying, do you really need it? No. You look at an ad and all of a sudden, it's not that would be nice to have. It goes from nice to have to I will not be a real human being unless I have it. And you buy it, it comes into your house, and where does it go? Somewhere. Is it really used? Hardly. 3 days after you bought it, do you still think you need it as much as when you bought it? No, because now you realize you really didn't quite need it as much. That's what he's talking about. The consumerism that makes us believe that unless I am buying, I am not a real human being. Let me pray.
Let us pray.
Father, we thank you for your tremendous love, and we ask your blessings upon us, that we may experience mercy and grace always. Bless us, Lord, that we may live as your way to your kingdom and conversion of heart for all your people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
God
Thank
bless.
you, Archbishop. God bless.